Hey, ladies and gents, we are back with Avorion. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. Ladies and gents, just went off the fucking rail there. Anyway, we're talking about Avorion materials. I should have did this video a long time ago. I do get a lot of questions about this, and I'm sorry about that. Sometimes I forget I place the game so much. I always assume people know this, but right, they don't. So we're going to talk about location first on the materials, and then we're going to actually get into the materials. What's best for shipbuilding, what's not good for shipbuilding, what's good for building stations, all that kind of crap. So let's look at the galaxy map. Most of the time, most people spawn in the game around this area here, around the 400 mark, roughly the outside edge line here, which is in the titanium iron region. Roughly, we all mine the material. Now, typically, and this is once again kind of, you can't say everything's for sure in this game because it's not. I can say something for sure, and then somebody's like, "Yeah, that's not what I saw," so I can't do that. But for most part, around the 375 mark, you'll find neonite. Around the 300 mark, you'll find trinium. Around the 200 mark, you'll find xanium. And around about 150, maybe a little less, is the barrier edge. It's the rift that goes all the way around the center of the center of the galaxy. From the 150 mark, roughly to about the 75 mark, you'll find ogonite, and from the 75 mark all the way up to the 0, this is the general area where you're going to find Avorion. Now you'll find iron, titanium, all through this area, neonite, trinium, xanium. You'll find it all the way into the center of the galaxy. So it's not like those materials just disappear. You will find them at the center of the galaxy, just as in larger quantities. So, example, if I really wanted to mine a lot of trinium, or if I wanted to mine a lot of trinium, I want to do it between the 300 and the 200 in this area right here, where you'll find the largest concentrations of trinium. Typically, yeah, it says starts at 300. You might not find it until you get to 290, even 280 maybe. And if you do, you'll only find 1 or 2 asteroids. This won't be until you get to the center between the 300 and 200 in this area where you'll find a lot of the material. And that runs same for neonite, same for xanium. Pretty simple. So let's get on to the actual material. And we'll talk about that in the build, in the build area. Now, if you don't know, there is a great Avorion great Avorion wiki. Go check it out. This shows way better explanation than what I'll probably do, but I'm going to try to run through this quick here. This is going to give you the mass, durability, credit costs, and all that kind of stuff of materials. So this is, of course, in the Avorion under materials, give you a much better actual breakdown. What I'm more concerned is showing you what you're going to be building your ships on. When you first start out, your first 2 materials you're going to be able to access, of course, is iron and titanium. You're going to want to build almost your entire ship out of titanium as quick as possible, because you're going to, just as you jump ahead a little bit, you're going to find a lot of titanium. Don't spend a whole lot of time building your ship out of iron. Iron is a very heavy material. It just does not build the best ships. And as the materials progress, you're going to unlock more blocks. Right now, you're missing a lot of stuff using iron. You can't get a hangar, you can't get a generator, you can't get a shield generator, you can't get hyperspace cores, none of that kind of stuff. You can't even get a lot of that stuff in titanium. However, you start getting the integrated field generators, you start getting titanium generators, you're starting to get that kind of stuff, titanium energy generators. You're starting to get some of the higher end blocks in titanium, and titanium is a much lighter material than iron. Neonite is when you first start getting into the high-end blocks, which are like the shield generators and the hyperspace cores. However, neonite does not produce armor like titanium and iron. So early on, some of your first ships are going to be most of titanium, and you're going to be filling the inside of your ships with the better energy generators, the energy shield generators, and of course the hypercores. Of course, they're still missing quite a bit here. It doesn't have computer cores, doesn't have transporters. And we're going to run over these blocks later in later videos when we do like the coning pods and, of course, the transporter softwares that you need to move materials around. Once you get to the tritium level, this is the most important material in the game. Why? Because it offers up most of the blocks in the game at a very low weight. Weight is always something you have to deal with in this game to make your ships fly right or somewhat half-ass decent. So tritium is the go-to material for building most of your outside of your ships because it also is able to produce a armor block, which is, compared to, difference between this and, say like Ogonite block, which is Ogonite has the best armor durability-wise, but is extraordinarily heavy. So you can get away with just putting a thin layer of Ogonite and then stacking it pretty heavily with, if you're going to try to tank shit, with the tritium armor because it's a lot lighter. In fact, the difference between mass versus durability is not that much different between Ogonite and tritium if you take that into account. So tritium is going to be your go-to material for most of your shipbuilding. And then we got Xanium. Xanium produces everything but armor. It doesn't produce inertia dampers. Inertia damper is one of those weird ones. You can only get it at iron and Avorion. What the inertia damper is, like I said, it's a weird block. You only get it in these two materials. Is you put this at the front of your ships and it will slow your ship down really fast. So you can only use the iron and the Avorion. So if you want to use inertia blocks, that's your only two choices. But for the most part, Xanium produces everything but armor. Once again, it's a progression thing. Xanium has a higher HP pool per block than tritium, neonite, titanium, and iron. However, it is heavier than tritium. So once again, this materials. It's all going to be about what you're going to trade off on your ships. If you want a super tanky ship, if you want a lot of HPs, you're going to build it out of the heavy materials. However, you're going to have a harder time maneuvering it. That's where the whole tritium thing comes into. Something to remember when you're building your ship. And hopefully, I'm going to do some way of a half-assed, decent shipbuilding thing sometime. And I'm not a great shipbuilder myself. Some of my stuff flies just barely out of control because, who needs to stop, right? So outside of the barrier, most of your ships, once you get close to the barrier, is going to be made out of tritium and Xanium as your interior blocks. Early game, titanium is going to be your go-to material for building at least the outer hull of your ship. Then you're probably going to fill it up with some neonite. I just typically stay away from iron. The only thing I use iron for is building stations and mines. If I got to put a big cargo bay on something, I'm going to use iron. I'm not going to waste my tritium on building cargo bays on something that's stationary. That kind of stuff. Once you get to the next material after Xanium, of course, is Ogonite. Ogonite, as far as I'm concerned, is pretty much a worthless material, other than the fact it's got a large HP pool, but it's a weight problem. It's just too big. I mean, you can do it. Don't get me wrong. You can do it to make a ship out of it, but it's extremely hard to get it to be somewhat maneuverable. You could do it, like I said. Once again, anything's possible in this game. You're just going to have to work at it a lot, really harder. Real hard to do it. Tritium is extremely forgivable when you're doing stuff because it's so light. However, Ogonite, you got to do some serious planning to get the right amount of thrusters and all that kind of stuff to make it even half-assed, be able to move around well. However, it does have the thickest armor, or most durable armor in the game. So if you really want to build somewhat tanky, just putting a real thin layer, like a one thickness of Ogonite, does help quite a bit. Then of course you can layer tritium over it if you want more of that kind of stuff. But for the most part, I don't use Ogonite except for when I'm building stations and mines. Last material, of course, is Avorion. Avorion is the best of the best, the highest HP per block in the game. Produces the best hyperspace cores, produces the best generators, all that kind of stuff. But of course, it is heavier than tritium. Once again, this game is all about the trade-offs between what you weigh and what you're trying to do with it. Most of my in-tier ships are built out of tritium hulls, filled up with Avorion hyperspace cores, generators, and all that kind of stuff. So something to remember. At least gives you this. Hopefully, this video at least gives you a kind of a guide to material-wise, what you should be using. I prefer, of course, using mostly tritium for everything, with Xanian outside the barrier, using Xanian for my internals, like generators and like stuff. Once I get into the barrier, I use tritium hulls filled with Avorion. So there you go. All right, what happens if you have this beautiful ship that you have and you don't want to, you know, deconstruct it or whatever? And I think I've showed you, this is for the new guys, I think I've showed you this before. There is a view button here. And what this does is you can go in here and say, for example, this ship is entirely out of tritium except for one block that I'm using for my turrets. But you can change, and what I'm gonna do here is, no, I can't do that here. This is, of course, a non-alliance ship, and I only have 93,000, and I'm not gonna go back and forth trying to do that. So let's run over and look at it. I know I have another couple ships here that are in alliance. That way I don't have to keep switching materials around. Come on, where are we at? There we go. Let's jump over to him. Okay, so you've seen this ship in game. Now instead of having to change all this ship is mostly tritium. I do have a couple Xanian parts on there, but we're going to show you how to change so you don't have to deconstruct your ship. I talked about this earlier with the view. We're going to look at the view here. What it does is brings up, you can change, show specific blocks. What we're going to do is look at shield generators. Right now, these are all made out of Xanian. If I want to say, for example, change my hyperspace cores, which are all made out of tritium, and I want to get, and you're going to see the difference when I change this. We're going to change those hyperspace cores into Xanian hyperspace cores. There we go. We're going to transform the blocks. And what you're going to see over here, you're going to see the change, of course, in HP, because the Xanian block has more HP than the tritium block. And of course, you're going to see the difference here in generated power. So let's change that one. You see I gained a little bit. And we're going to change, I'm sorry, hyperspace core, not energy, but you see the hyperspace reach changes here just a little bit. 24.8 now at 25.5. And it can add just a tad bit, I believe, to my HP. Let's change something else here. What else we got that we could change? We could change the engine. Those are all tritium engines. We can change that to a Xanian engine. If I transfer the blocks, we can change it. And you'll see a couple changes here in the mass. You can see the mass changes. Let's see, change that one to a. Not seeing any changes in my acceleration. My acceleration is going down because my mass is increasing, along with my HP. So there's my HP went up again to 297. But now I have all Xanian engines. It's an easy way to change your ship without having to completely take it apart and all that kind of stuff. So it's something to remember when you're building your ships, that you have this pot, that you have this. So yeah, that doesn't look right. I'll have to change back to tritium. Great to have a little bit of increase in there. I wonder if I can do that with that other one. Let's do that one. I wanted to show you the actual difference in this. I know is all tritium. I wanted to show you the actual difference in changes in the, for example, the shield generator. How much difference there is between using Xanian shield generators. Okay, those are all tritium. Let's change that to Xanian shield generator. So now watch my shield. I'm at 162.97. We're going to change that. So at you can see I'm at 183. Ooh, I made those really small, didn't I? We're at 203. Let's just keep changing them, and you can see that we're just so we're at 244. Since Xanian's a better material, produces better shields, I gained quite a bit. Yeah, quite a bit for the shield. It also sucked down more power, so we're going to want to change our, not just our shield generators, but our actual generators as well. So we're going to go to here, and we're going to change it from that to Xanian. There's one, and you can see down here in the bottom, we're at 91.51. We're going to change all those to, so we were at 91.51, and now we are, as soon as that thing changes and moves a little bit, we're at 105. So we went to a better material for it. We got a slight increase in our hull, 725 hit points, because it's has more HP, but yeah. So there you go. That's a little bit easier to understand how to do this, I guess, for to change your ship without having to completely tear it apart. All right, so we've covered the materials, we've covered all that stuff. You guys have a good night. Hopefully get some more videos up here shortly for you. Hopefully that answers some of your guys' questions about materials in the game. So that said, guys, have a good night, and thanks for watching.